held their precinct caucuses. With more than three-quarters of the precincts reporting, Jerry Brown is the winner, trailed by Bill Clinton, Paul Tsongas, and Uncommitted. Meanwhile, Iowa Senator Tom Harkin is about to give it up. Scott Pillay reports.
He was the campaign's first winner with the caucus in his home state of Iowa. But Tom Harkin never caught on in the later primaries. The New Deal Democrat ran out of money and faced a hostile Super Tuesday with no prospects. Tomorrow, he will call it quits. Today, frontrunner Bill Clinton found himself defending his past again. The New York Times raised questions about his business partnership with an Arkansas savings and loan executive. The implication being that a governor should not have personal financial dealings with a business regulated by his own administration.
I think you can argue that maybe I should have gotten out of it, but frankly, at the time, it never crossed my mind because we were losing money.
It was another chance for the others to pile on.
Bill Clinton thinks he's above the law. He shows a certain contempt for the rules all the rest of us have to live with.
The idea that you're in a business relationship with someone you regulate, I think is an error in judgment.
Today, Paul Tsongas concentrated on Florida, hoping to prevent a Clinton sweep of the South. With its large number of immigrants from the Northeast, Florida's electorate votes more like the nation as a whole than a deep South state. Super Tuesday has something for each of the leading candidates, Massachusetts and Rhode Island for Tsongas, Clinton throughout the South. But Florida, many analysts believe, is still too close to call. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Miami.
For the Republicans, Super Tuesday looks like more of the same. Victories for President Bush, but with a big chunk of votes for Pat Buchanan, the challenger who won't go away. White House correspondent Randall Pinkston reports.
Pat Buchanan refuses to surrender, even though he's losing every primary battle to President Bush. His strategy, trying to snatch a rhetorical victory from the jaws of solid political defeats.
Pat Buchanan is driving the national debate and moving the administration in our direction. In that sense, we are winning the campaign.
But Buchanan fears he's losing some of his support base to former Klansman David Duke, who is also on the Republican ballot in several southern states.
If we could get this third candidate out of the race down here in Louisiana, I think we could do well.
Republican Party Chairman Rich Bond is hoping Buchanan takes his own advice.
I respect Pat's right to run. But I think when you come to the point in time when you're mathematically eliminated, which will take place sometime in May, I think sometime in May, that he ought to drop this quest.
Buchanan vows to stay in the race all the way, even as it becomes clear he can't win the nomination. He is apparently gearing up for a run in 1996 as the conservative standard-bearer, showing little concern that his challenge this year will likely weaken President Bush against the Democrats in November. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, the White House.
And still ahead on the CBS Sunday Night News, a step toward breaking the genetic code of asthma.
Everyone has a dream.
They are closing in on a gene that triggers the disease. Health correspondent Edie Magnus has a report.
Big, deep breath.
It's a chronic disease where the airways become inflamed, making breathing difficult.
It's time for your treatment.
For the Cohn family, coping with the debilitating symptoms of asthma is a daily part of life. All three children suffer it, so do their father and their grandmother.
We can't go anywhere without medications.
Scientists in Britain say they've discovered that what predisposes people to develop the symptoms of asthma is a defect in a single gene, a gene passed from one generation to the next. They've narrowed the search to a particular region of a particular chromosome, and they claim to be close to identifying the culprit gene itself.
I think the message is that there's real hope that more effective treatment will ultimately become available, because I think we're identifying one single important defect that underlies their problems.
Blow, 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 blow. Keep blowing. Harder, harder.
American asthma experts meeting in Florida say such a discovery would be a major breakthrough, but
I think the question is, can it be reproduced, and is this a real finding? And this will have to wait to see for other people to study it and try to confirm or refute their findings.
prospects for more effective asthma treatment are still years away. Still, the Cohn family is encouraged.
anything that would help them makes us feel better, that at least, there's some hope that maybe it won't always be like that we always have to walk around with medication.
That's a hope they share with more than 11 million Americans who currently suffer this disease. Edie Magnus, CBS News, New York.
Iraq's Deputy Prime Minister, Tariq Aziz, goes before the UN Security Council this week to answer charges that Iraq has been cheating on its pledge to dismantle weapons of mass destruction. Aziz will try to get the UN to lift economic sanctions against Iraq. And while the Iraqis attempt to cope with the consequences of defeat at the UN, Secretary of State Baker will be in Brussels trying to cope with the consequences of victory, as NATO, the U.S.-European military alliance, welcomes almost all of the new nations of the former Soviet Union into something called the North Atlantic Cooperation Council. In effect, it's a kind of junior partnership in NATO.
What's forming here is, I believe, a cooperative arrangement for conducting security on a different basis.
Without the standoff between the tanks of NATO and those of the old Warsaw Pact, the old rules don't apply anymore. The reason for NATO's existence has collapsed, and it is fighting to remain relevant in the face of new problems. For instance,
economic and political turbulence in Eastern Europe and parts of the former Soviet Union, and the potential disintegration of the Soviet military establishment.
So NATO will welcome its former enemy, with all of its economic and internal military problems, into the fold, sort of. But it may not be long before the former enemy is a full partner.
NATO will have to become the initiating organization for a global arrangement, or NATO will have to disappear. I mean, there's not anything in between is boggy ground.
Also on the agenda for this week's meeting, what to do about the former Soviet Union's nuclear scientists.
There's such a demand for that kind of capability out around the world that they'll pay any price in Libya or Tehran or elsewhere. We need to do everything we can to try to prevent it.
And so at next week's meeting, the U.S. and Russia will announce the details of a scientific institute funded by the West to keep Russia's nuclear specialists working on peacetime projects. In Miami, defense attorneys are expected to wrap up their case this week in the drug trafficking trial of former Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega. His lawyers have not yet decided if Noriega will take the stand in his own defense.
Salam forever.
But peace was not to be his future. In June 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon. Israel, for the first time, was laying siege to an Arab city, Beirut. Begin was widely blamed for the Sabra Shatila massacre for mounting Israeli casualties. On the 15th of September, 1983, he resigned, saying, "I cannot go on." Those were the last words Begin spoke in public. The rest was silence. A tragic end for a man whose obsession had been the tragedy of the Jewish people, and his determination that Israel would be the instrument to prevent that tragedy from recurring ever again.
That's the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Bill Plant in New York. Good night, and have a good week.